Welcome to Afflictions Sugarcoated, a podcast where we sugarcoat some of the world's so-called afflictions and rate their plausibility on a scale of 1 to 5. I'm Minnie Kim, and today we'll be sugarcoating time zone differences and everything associated with it. So if you don't know already, I live in Korea, but I go to school in the US, so I guess as someone recently pointed out, I live in the US as well. But it always feels weird saying that I live in the US because I could genuinely get kicked out at any moment, i.e., I'm on a visa, not a permanent resident, not a citizen, but on a mere F1 visa. As you may know, it's nearing the end of summer break for high schoolers. Some of you may already be at school. Some of you may have a month left in your school. Some of you may just not go to school. But for me, it's a few weeks before school starts. By the time this episode comes out, it'll only be a few days actually, so wish me luck. But more importantly, let's talk about what happened this summer. If you travel a lot, you'll experience a lot of jet lag. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, jet lag. Your brain thinks that you should be sleeping and the world outside should be dark, but it's incredibly far from it. In fact, it might be 9 a.m., and your brain gets confused because it's sleepy. But you have to work or meet your friends or eat or travel or whatever. But before we move on to the more personal anecdotes related to jet lag, let's actually see why the hell jet lag even happens in the first place. Jet lag happens because your body's internal clock, i.e., the circadian rhythm, is still synced to your original time zone after you travel quickly across multiple time zones. Your circadian rhythm regulates things like sleep alertness, digestion, and hormone release based on light and dark cycles. So when you suddenly jump ahead or back to local time, for example, if I fly from Seoul to I don't know, Boston, your brain's master clock in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, also called the SCN, of the hypothalamus doesn't instantly update. So the mismatch means mainly four things. Number one, you feel sleepy when the new time zone says you should be awake. Number two, you're wide awake at night when your body thinks it's morning. Number three, hormone release like melatonin or cortisol is timed to your old schedule, so you're still tired at 9 a.m. And digestion and body temperature cycles are off, leading to stomach issues or feeling off. So if you ever had trouble making bowel movements during vacations, this is why. Your body does adjust in the end, but usually after about 1 to 2 time zones per day, which is why long east to west flights can leave you feeling scrambled for several days. In my case, I often feel scrambled when I fly from indeed Incheon to Boston for at least a week, but maybe that's just me. But that's what jet lag is. So there's something more intriguing than that. It's the reason why jet lag happens, and it's mostly called a time zone difference. Here's the scientific, or rather mathy explanation for time differences. Number one, the science part. Your body clock as a timekeeping system. Your circadian rhythm is basically a 24.2-hour oscillator in your brain, SCN. Again, the thing that took a while to pronounce. And yes, it is indeed 24.2 hours. That 24.2 hours isn't perfect. It syncs daily with environmental cues like light, temperature, and social activity. When you travel across time zones, you shift the environment instantly, but your oscillator can't jump instantly. It can only be returned at a certain rate, about 1 to 2 hours per day. The phase shift problem is the core of jet lag. Your sleep wake phase in the new time zone is misaligned with local solar time. But secondly, the math part, because we all love math. Let's define T as local time in your new time zone, B as your body time, i.e., your circadian phase in hours, and the little triangle thing as delta. I'm reading from a sheet of paper, as you can probably tell. And time delta actually expresses the time zone difference between the old and new location. And R, your adjustment rate, is often 1 to 2, depending on direction and light exposure. For example, you fly from New York to Paris, which is UTC minus 5 to UTC plus 1. That's a delta of plus 6 hours eastward. Then that means that R is equal to 1.5 hours per day adjustment rate. Then let's look at how it changes throughout the days. Day 0, you're 6 hours behind local time. Well, technically in your brain. Day 1, you're 4.5 hours behind. Day 2, 3 hours behind. Day 3, 1.5 hours behind. And day 4, you're finally fully adjusted. So, technically, if you're flying from New York to Paris, you should be fully adjusted within day 4, but of course, that doesn't always work that way. But let's look at the East versus the West. Why the math is so asymmetric. Your body's natural clock is slightly longer than 24 hours, again, about 24.2, which makes it easier to delay sleep when you're westward traveling than to advance it, which is eastward traveling. Westward traveling, e.g., Paris to New York, you extend your day, matching the natural delay tendency, adjust about 2 hours per day. Then you fly eastward, e.g., New York to Paris. You shorten your day, fighting against the delay tendency, which means an adjust period of about 1 hour per day. So I guess this is why if I fly from, I don't know, Boston to Korea, I always feel better, but that may just be because I'm coming home. So it's an incredibly interesting sport that needs more attention. Understanding what happens in your brain and body whenever you get on a plane across the ocean. It might seem stupid going over what feels like something that everyone has at least wondered once, but that's what we do here. When I first learned about time zone differences, I was incredibly confuzzled. I must have been in elementary school or something because I distinctly remember asking my mom what she meant by they're in a different time zone. I don't remember who she was talking to. I don't remember what she was talking about. Just that little snippet of the conversation I overheard on the telephone. In fact, I think it was 5 p.m. our time, and she said it was 6 p.m. their time, and I got incredibly confused. To me at the time was literally what was on the clock. It was what my teachers told me to read. 9:30, 10 to 1, all those little tricks. They were incredibly confusing, of course, but not as confusing as what just blew my mind. The fact that times can be different across the world. I think that I just lacked the brain power to even process it at the time. And for those of you who are still wondering, here's a simple explanation of what time is. Yes, I'm answering the question that you've probably had lingering in your brain for quite some time since you've been born and since you could think. Maybe you're stubborn enough to go look at it, but if not, here it is. What is time? I'm going to give 4 definitions for you. Number 1 being the everyday definition. We all know what it is. We measure time with clocks and calendars so we can coordinate events and understand durations. Like, oh, it's 3 p.m. Oh, the meeting lasted 45 minutes. This is conventional time. It's tied to Earth's rotation and orbit around the sun, rotation being days and orbit being years, in case you missed some classes in 5th grade. Number 2, the physics definition. In physics, time is a dimension, like space, in which events occur in a sequence. In classical mechanics, which is Newton's view, time is absolute. It's the same for everyone. It's ticking uniformly everywhere. In relativity, which is Einstein's view, time is relative. How much time passes depends on your speed and the strength of gravity where you are. This is time dilation. A moving astronaut's clock may tick slower compared to one on Earth. I know, mind blowing. 3. The deeper philosophical question. Is time something that flows, or is it just the way we perceive change? In some interpretations of physics, i.e., the block universe, past, present, and future all coexist. Time doesn't pass, we just experience different slices of it. Others sees time Others see time as emergent, not fundamental, but a byproduct of change and entropy. Now, that is something to think about for the rest of the day. And of course, number 4, the mathematical definition. Mathematically, time is often represented by the variable Mathematically, time is often represented by the variable t in equations describing change. Positions over time would then often equal x parentheses t, end parentheses, velocity, all of that. But to be honest, that's not important. It's a concept that I'll probably never understand except for the mottos that people throw around, like time is money or time is valuable, or I don't know. The quotes are for later. So, now on to the personal anecdotes. I'm involved in some team clubs in my school that need to meet over the summer, either for preparing or other stuff. In the end, it comes down to finding the right time for people with work, other things, I don't know, maybe they have tutoring. Two of them take up my main attention, and each have about 10 people that I need to meet with. I'll coordinate some kind of time to gather together on Zoom or Google Meets. They're all either in Central Pacific or Eastern Time, clearly. And we have had a hard time matching up those times because I'm the only person in Korea. Well, note there is one person in Spain, but the time difference is significantly less. The meeting times that work best for most people land on 1, 2, or 3 a.m. for me. Now, obviously, these people understand that I'm simply unwilling to wake up or stay awake at these ungodly hours, so I've never had to. They've never exactly pressured me to do so. In the end, it was just pressuring myself. I felt guilty enough to attempt to wake up at those 1, 2, or 3 a.m.s, but it would simply never work. Either the meeting times would change spontaneously after a leader would be like, oh, this time doesn't work, or a group of people were like, oh, this time also doesn't work. Or I would just not be able to wake up, or I would have something come up, like an emergency. 2 weeks into the project, I wasn't able to attend a single group meeting, and although I caught up with some people, it felt incredibly wrong for me to commit to something that I had no time to meet. Not because I didn't have time, trust me, I was free almost 8 hours of every day, except for sleeping. I was watching TV all day. Now, of course, there are several meetings that I was able to attend, but it's nowhere near the amount that I initially planned or wanted. One time, I was on vacation in Vietnam, and I stayed up until 1 a.m. trying to figure out if the meeting was going to happen or not, or whether it was getting delayed, or whether I would only have to stay up for 10 more minutes, or whether it had already happened, to be honest. In the end, I had to tap out, and I was like a zombie for the rest of the day, trying to play tennis in the blazing sun. But I guess in a way, time differences are in fact cool. The fact that we could have been born at the same instance, at the same slice of time. Remember, there are many different interpretations of that. Just while my mom's surroundings were shiny and filled with birds because it's daytime, while your mom's surroundings were dark at night. We could have been born at the exact same time, but still have different birthdays. It's more than just a time difference. It's the fact that we're all connected by time in a weird, convoluted way across the globe. It allows us to understand that circumstances are different for different people. If you asked me to imagine what life would be like in Iceland right now, I couldn't tell you much, except for the fact that, oh, it's early morning, midday, or night. It's the easiest thing to sympathize with. When work begins or ends, when sleep begins or ends. So, in a twisted way, jet lag and time differences aren't so bad. They're just time consuming, fatiguing, and makes me want to change how the earth revolves around the sun. But as William Penn said, time is what we want most, and what we use worst. And I hate that everything I have to do is haunted by that quote. So I give the sugarcoating of time differences and everything that follows with it a 2. This podcast was written and produced by me, Vinny Kim. If you have any comments or reviews, please feel free to write any and all thoughts on your podcast reviews. If you'd like to suggest an affliction for me to sugarcoat, please email me via afflictionsugarcoated@gmail.com. If you have any intriguing stories about jet lag or time differences, please let me know. It's always a hassle to Google 3 p.m. KST to EST or PST or whatever else ST. But as always, I'll see you next month, whatever date or time that may be.